Hi everybody, I'm Shreyam Banerjee, a CMI alumnus, and in this video we're going to look at the 50 most important questions for JEE Main 2025. Now we're not claiming that these are the exact questions you're going to get, but you are most likely to get some different variant of these questions, right? So let's start with the first one. So the minimum number of elements that must be added to this relation on this set so that it's an equivalence relation is what? So we know that for a relation to be an equivalence relation, it needs to be reflexive, it needs to be symmetric, and it needs to be transitive, right? So let's look at the elements that are already present. So you have a comma b given, you have b comma c given, and you have b comma d given, right? So because a comma b is present, you want a comma a to be present, b comma b to be present, c comma c to be present, and d comma d to be present, right? All these follow from the fact that it has to be a reflexive relation, right? Now because a comma b is present, you also want b comma a to be present because it also has to be symmetric at the same time. Similarly, you get c comma b and you get d comma b, right? Okay. Now if you look carefully, AB is present, BC is present, so you also want AC to be present. And if AC is present, CA also has to be present, right? Okay. Now, okay. Let's look at the transitive part. So we got 2 from the transitives thing. What else can we say? So you have AB, BC. You have AB and BD present, right? So AD should also be present. You also want DA to be present, right? You get these two. Also, BC is present, or if you look at it, you have CB present and you have BD present, right? So you want CD and DC to be present as well, right? So if you look at this, this gives you an equivalence relation on this particular set, right? So the minimum number of elements you need to add are 4 plus 4 plus 5. So that's 13, right? So you need 13 extra elements for this to become an equivalence relation. So that's your answer for the first question. Coming to the second one. If this ratio is equal to 9 by 5, then find the value of n. So the numerator is just sum of the cubes, right? So we know that the formula for that is n times n plus 1 by 2 whole squared. And if you look at the denominator is nothing but this series. It's summation k times 2k plus 1, where k ranges from 1 to n, which is nothing but summation of twice of k square plus k, right? Which will turn out to be k times k plus 1 times 2k plus 1 divided by 6 plus k times k plus 1. Sorry, it should be in terms of n. So it will be n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 by 6 multiplied with a 2 will give you a 3 plus n times n plus 1 divided by 2, right? So this is the denominator. So if I put this here, you'll get n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 divided by 3 plus n times n plus 1 divided by 2. So now you can cancel out n times n plus 1 from the numerator and the denominator, right? So from here you'll get n times n plus 1 divided by 4 divided by 2n plus 1 by 3 plus half should be equal to 9 by 5. Now we just have to cross multiply and simplify this expression, okay? So if I cross multiply and simplify this, what will I get? I'll get 5 n times n plus 1 divided by 4 equal to 9 times. If I simplify this, you should get 4n plus 2 plus 3 divided by 6. So this becomes 3. This will become 2. This becomes 2. So what do you get from here? So you'll end up with something like 5n square. So if I cross multiply after this, you'll get 5n square plus 5n equal to 6 times 4, so that's 24n plus this will be a 5 3s are 15, 15 2s are 30, right? Which gives you the quadratic 5n square minus 19n minus 30 equal to 0. And if I try to factorize this, I should end up with, it will be 5n minus 6 times n minus 5. 1 second. 5. So this will be a plus. 1 second. So minus. So this will be a plus and this will be a minus, right? equal to 0. So obviously n has to be a natural number, so n cannot be minus 6 by 5. So from here you get that n has to be equal to 5, and that is your answer. So the value of n is 5. Okay, so this is your second answer. Coming to the third question, you have two functions defined. The first function is from R to R, defined as fx equal to 2x minus 1, and you have a function g defined from R minus 1 to R as follows. So the question is, the composition function f of g of x is what? So first of all, if you look at f of g, this has to be a function from the domain of g, right? So it's a function from R minus 1 to the range of R, right? So the codomain is going to be R, right? So it's a function from R minus 1 to R. And if I look at the composition, it's going to be twice of gx. So f of g of x should be equal to twice of gx minus 1, which is going to be twice of 2x minus 1 divided by twice of x minus 1 minus 1, right? So this 2 and 2 will cancel out, so you get 2x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 minus 1. And if you simplify this further, you should get 2x minus 1 minus x plus 1 divided by x minus 1, which is nothing but x by x minus 1, which can be rewritten as 1 plus 1 by x minus 1, right? Now if you look at this function carefully, this part always is going to be non-zero, right? You can never have 1 by x minus 1 equal to 0. So this function never retains the value 1. So even though the codomain of this function is R, the range of f of g, so if I look at the range of f of g of x, that is going to be R minus 1, right? And from here it's very easy to see that this function is actually 1, 1, right? If you equate it, you'll cross multiply, you'll get that it's a 1, 1 function. So even though it's 1, 1, it's not onto. So your right option is option 3. So it's 1, 1 but not onto. Coming to the next question. So fx is a function such that f of x plus y is equal to fx times fy for every x and y in natural numbers, where f1 is equal to 3. If this summation is equal to 3 to 7, 9, find the value of n. So just looking at this function, you should be able to guess the general form of the function. It's always going to be f1 to the power x, okay? This is the general form of this function, and if you want, you can prove it using induction on natural numbers because it's defined on n, right? In this particular case, it's given that f of 1 is 3, which implies that my function fx is nothing but 3 to the power x, right? So this summation basically turns out to be summation 3 to the power k ranging from 1 to n, which is nothing but 3 times 3 to the power n minus 1 divided by 2. And this sum is given as 3279. So from here we can say that 3 to the power n minus 1 by 2 should be equal to 1093, which gives me 3 to the power n minus 1 equal to 2186. 3 power n is equal to 2187, which is nothing but 3 to the power 7, which gives me n equal to 7. It's as simple as that. So the right answer is again option 3, it's 7, okay? So that's question 4. Right, coming to the fifth question, let the sum of the coefficients of the first 3 terms of this expansion be 376, then the coefficient of x to the power 4 is what? So the coefficient of the first 3 terms are always going to be n choose 0 minus, or rather minus 3 to the power 1 n choose 1 plus minus 3 to the power 2 n choose 2, right? And this value is given as 376. So on simplifying the left hand side, you get 1 minus 3n plus 9 times n minus 1 divided by 2 equal to 376. So on simplifying this further, you'll get 2 minus 6n plus 9n square minus 9n equal to 12, 15, 752, right? In other words, 9n square minus 15n minus 750 is equal to 0, which on cancelling out a factor of 3 will give you 3n square minus 5n minus 250 equal to 0. Now this quadratic simplifies as 3n plus 25 times n minus 10. So for this to be 0, we obviously know that n can't be minus 25 by 3, so n has to be 10. So we get the value of n from here. Now you're looking for the coefficient of x to the power 4, right? A general term in this expansion is going to look like n choose k, x to the power k, minus 3 by x square whole to the power n minus k, assuming I replace the value of n, which we got, right? So the power of x in this general term is k minus, this will become a minus, so you'll get a plus 2k minus 20. And if you want this value to be equal to 4, we get that k has to be equal to 8. So what is your required coefficient? So the required coefficient is nothing but 10c8 times minus 3 whole to the power 10 minus 8, right? Which is basically 10 choose 8, or rather 10 choose 2 if you want. 10 choose 2 times 3 square, which is nothing but 405. So your right answer is option 2, which is 405. Coming to question 6. If fx is x cube minus x squared times f dash 1 plus x times f double dash 2 minus f triple dash, then which of the following options is true? Now the first thing you need to understand is whatever f might be, f prime 1, f prime 2, or f double prime 2 and f triple prime 3 are all going to be constants. So from here, we essentially have that fx is some x cube minus some ax square plus some bx minus some c, where a is nothing but the value of f prime 1, b is the value of f double prime 2, and c is the value of f triple prime 3, right? Now using this, if I try to find the value of f prime x, it will turn out to be 3x square minus 2ax plus b. F double dash x should be 6x minus 2a, and f triple dash x should be equal to 6, right? So if you look carefully, f triple dash x is equal to 6 for any value of x, which means the value that I chose c, the value of c has to be 6. Now once you get this, going back to the previous step, f double prime 2 should be equal to 12 minus 2a, right? This is one equation we get, and from the first equation you can say that f prime 1, which is nothing but 3 minus 2a plus b, has to be equal to a, right? And this value has to be equal to b. So you get that 2a plus b is equal to 12, and from this equation you'll get that 3a minus b is equal to 3. So let's solve these two equations. So you get 2a plus b equal to 12, right? So if you add these two, you'll get the value of a as 3, right? Now once a is equal to 3, if you plug this here, you'll get the value of b as 6. So essentially your function f just turns out to be, so if I write it here, your function fx is essentially x cube minus 3x square plus 6x minus 6, right? Now once you get this, you can find the values of 1, 2, 3 and 0, all four of them, right? So if you look at f0, f0 is basically the constant, which is minus 6. If you look at the value of f of 1 should turn out to be 1 plus 6, 7, minus 6, that's 1, minus 3, so that's minus 2. F of 2 should be 8 minus 4 3s are 12, so let's just write it down. So that's going to be 8 minus 12 plus 12 minus 6, right, which is 2. So f of 2 is 2, and f of 3 is going to be 27 minus 27, 18 minus 6, so that's 12. So you get the values of these four values. Why did I find the values of these four? Because these are the ones which are there in the options, right? So you have some permutation of these options. So let's check if the first option is true. So 3 times f1 plus f2, that's minus 6 plus 2 is equal to f3, that's wrong. If you look at option 2, f3 minus f2 is 10, which is not equal to f of 1. Coming to the third option, 2f0, which is minus 12. So let's check the third one. So minus 12 minus, so plus 2 plus 12 is equal to f of 2, which is 2, right? So option C is indeed correct, right? And because it's a single option correct, you don't have to check the fourth option. So the right answer is option 3, all right? So that's your sixth question. Coming to the next one, find the value of this thing. Now if you look carefully, you can see that this number gets repeated both in the numerator and the denominator, except there's a minus sign, right? So what I can do is, let's define a complex number z equal to sine 2 pi by 9 plus I cos 2 pi by 9, right? So if I define z to be this particular number in the denominator is nothing but z conjugate, right? Okay? Also notice one more thing, if z is defined as this, mod z is 1, right? So from here I can say that z conjugate is nothing but 1 by z, because we know that z times z conjugate is equal to mod z square. Alright, so using these observations, this expression basically turns out to be 1 plus z divided by 1 plus z conjugate whole cube, which is 1 plus z divided by 1 plus 1 by z whole cube, which is nothing but z cube, right? Now if you look carefully, z is not exactly in the standard form. For any polar form, we know cos theta plus I sin theta is the standard form. So the z is essentially, if I take iota common, I'll get cos 2 pi by 9 minus I sin 2 pi by 9, right? This is what I get. So z cube, now I can use de Moivre and I can say that this has to be I cube times cos of 2 pi by 3 minus I sin 2 pi by 3, right? Alright. So this is the required value of z cube, right? So I cube is basically minus iota. So the final answer, this value, is minus iota times cos 2 pi by 3. What is the value of cos 2 pi by 3? So that's minus half. Now I sin pi by 3 is root 3 by 2, so you have a minus I in front of it, so minus I times root 3 by 2. So if I multiply this out, I'll get I square and a minus 1. So minus minus, this will become I times half. Minus I times minus I, that's minus I whole square, so that's minus root 3 by 2. So that's I by 2 minus root 3 by 2. So if I take a minus half common, it should be root 3 minus I. So that is option 3. So that is your right answer, okay? So it's minus half times root 3 minus 1. That's your required answer, okay? Coming to the 8th question, if sin alpha, sin beta and sin gamma are in AP and cos alpha, cos beta and cos gamma are in GP, then find the value of this ratio. Then from the first relation, we can say that 2 sin beta is equal to sin alpha plus sin gamma. And from the second relation, we can say that cos square beta is equal to cos alpha times cos gamma. Now if I square the first equation, I'll get that 4 sin square beta is equal to sin square alpha plus sin square gamma plus 2 sin alpha sin gamma, right? Okay. Now if you look carefully, sin square beta is nothing but 1 minus cos square beta, and cos square beta is this particular value, right? So if I place that in one equation, I'll get that 1 minus cos alpha cos gamma is equal to, now sin square alpha and sin square gamma can both be broken down in terms of cos. So you'll get 2 minus cos square alpha minus cos square gamma plus 2 sin alpha sin gamma, right? Okay. Now let's rearrange this equation slightly. So I need this minus 4 cos alpha gamma on the left hand side. So let's keep it as it is. Let's bring this cos square terms on the left hand side. So from here you can say that cos square alpha plus cos square gamma minus 4 cos alpha cos gamma is equal to, so if I take this plus 4 to the right hand side, it will give you a minus 2 because of this 2 present, and let's keep that 2 sin alpha sin gamma on the right hand side. So you'll get 2 sin alpha sin gamma minus 2, right? Now I can take 2 common from this, and this will basically give you twice of sin alpha sin gamma minus 1. So from here, if I divide, I'll get that cos square alpha plus cos square gamma minus 4 cos alpha cos gamma divided by sin alpha sin gamma minus 1 is equal to 2, right? And this is precisely the ratio that you are looking for. So the value of this ratio has to be 2, which is option 2, right? So that's your 8th question. Coming to the next question. So you have a function given to you and you have to figure out in which intervals is this function increasing or decreasing. So obviously you have to find the derivative of this function. So if I look at f prime x turns out to be 12x square minus 6x divided by 6 minus twice of cos x. Now this last one is going to be plus 2x minus 1 times minus sin x plus 2 times cos x. Right? So this and this term will cancel out. This first term is nothing but twice of x square minus 1, so that's 2x times x minus 1. Sorry, that's x times 2x minus 1. And this term is going to be minus of 2x minus 1 times sine x. So this derivative is nothing but 2x minus 1 times x minus sine x, right? Okay. Now we know that for any x which is positive, so for x positive, x minus sine x is positive, right? And for x less than equal to 0, x minus sine x is going to be less than equal to 0, right? And if you look at the first function, for all x in plus half to infinity, this is going to be positive. And for x in minus infinity to half, this is going to be less than equal to 0. So to check if this function is increasing or not, we either want both of them to be positive, which is going to be this union this, right? So for this derivative to be positive, we get that x has to lie in between half to infinity. And if you look at this interval, minus infinity to half, even on this interval, if I look at minus infinity till 0, this is going to be negative, this is also going to be negative, right? So this union, so x lies in minus infinity to 0, union half to infinity, right? And for f prime x to be less than equal to 0, I want x to lie in between 0 and half, right? So these are the intervals where function is going to be increasing. These are the this is the interval where it's going to be decreasing, right? So if I compare with this if I compare this with the options, you can see that the first option is true, the second option is incorrect, the third option is also incorrect, so is the fourth one, right? So option A has to be, or option 1 is your correct answer, right? So this is question 9. Coming to the next one, you have to find the value of this integral. So we know the standard integral, that integral of 1 by root over a square minus x square dx is sine inverse x by a plus some constant, right? So if I rewrite this integral I, which is 3 root 2 by 4 all the way till 3 root 3 by 4, you have 48 by square root of 9 minus 4x square. So you can take a 48 common from the numerator, you'll get 48. And if I take a 2 from the denominator, this integral turns out to be 3 root 2 by 4 all the way till 3 root 3 by 4 times 1 by 3 by 2 whole squared minus x squared dx, which should give you 24 times sine inverse of, so this will give you x by a, right? So this turns out to be 2x by 3. 3 between 3 root 2 by 4 all the way till 3 root 3 by 4. So that is 24 sine inverse 2 by 3 times 3 root 3 by 4 minus sine inverse 2 by 3 times 3 root 2 by 4, right? So from the first term, 3 cancels out, you have 2 over here. From the second term, 2 and 2 cancel out, you have 3 over here, right? So this turns out to be sine inverse root 3 by 2 minus sine inverse root 2 by root 2 is basically 1 by root 2, right? Now sine inverse root 3 by 2 is basically pi by 3, and sine inverse 1 by root 2 is pi by 4. So this, and you have a 24 outside, which is 24 times pi by 12, which gives you 2 pi. So that's your required answer. So your option is option 4, 2 pi. Okay? Yeah. Coming to question 11. If the area bounded by the region between these two curves, y square minus 2y equal to minus x and x plus y equal to 0 is a, then find the value of 8a. So the second curve is your standard curve y equal to minus x. The first curve, if I just add 1 on both sides, you'll see that it turns out to be y minus 1 squared is equal to minus of x plus 1. So it's basically a parabola which passes through 0, 0 and 1, 1, right? This will be a minus 1. So it passes through 1, 1 and the origin. So if I draw this parabola, it should look something like this, right? And this is 1, 1. If you look at the second curve, it's basically y equal to minus x. So it should look something like this, right? Okay, and this is the required area that you're looking for. So we know that one point of intersection is going to be 0, 0. Let's find the other point of intersection, right? So if I equate this, so if I replace the value of phi, you'll get that minus x, so that will become x plus 1 whole squared is equal to minus x plus 1, which is x squared plus 2x plus 1 equal to minus x plus 1, which gives you x squared plus 3x equal to 0, which means x is equal to 0 or minus 3. We already know about x equal to 0, so this other point is x equal to minus 3, and since it lies on y equal to minus x, it's going to be minus 3 comma 3, right? Now one trick we can use over here is, instead of integrating with respect to x, which is the standard way in which you find the area, we can integrate with respect to y along the y-axis. In that case, you'll see that this integral turns out to be 0 to 3 of, if I look at the functions, you can clearly see that this is your upper function, right? So y equal to minus x or x equal to minus y minus of y square plus 2y, right? Sorry, minus of this, right? So what's our upper function here? Upper function is x equal to minus 5, and our lower function, which is this parabola, is nothing but it's minus 5 square plus 2y, right? So the required area can be written as integral 0 to 3, the upper minus the lower, so that's minus 5 minus minus 5 square, so a plus 5 square minus 2y dy, which is nothing but integral 0 to 3 y square minus 3y dy, which turns out to be 9 by 2, right? So the value of a is going to be 9 by 2, so the value that you're looking for is 8a, which is going to be 36. So that's your correct answer. So your right option is option 2, which is 36. So remember this trick, that in case, so had we tried to integrate with respect to the x-axis, we would have to consider up till this point and then another point. That's a lot of work, right? So you can use a trick that you integrate with respect to the y-axis, okay? Cool. All right, coming to the next question. So you have a vector, b vector given to you. In the standard form, you have b1 vector which is parallel to a and b2 vector which is perpendicular to a. If b is equal to b1 plus b2, then find the value of this dot product. So let's write down the information that's given to us. So b1 is parallel to a, right? So b1 vector is nothing but some constant lambda times a vector, right? So it's going to be lambda times 4i plus 3j plus 5k, right? Now, if you look at b is nothing but b1 plus b2 and b vector is given to us. So if I use this equation, I can say that I cap plus 2j cap minus 4k cap, which is my b vector, should be equal to b1, which is nothing but lambda times 4i plus 3j plus 5k cap, right? So plus your b2 vector, right? So b2 basically turns out to be, if I write it directly, I'll get 1 minus 4 lambda times I cap plus 2 minus 3 lambda j cap plus minus 4 minus 5 lambda k cap. This is the value of b2 vector. Now I know that b2 is perpendicular to a, right? So b2 dot a should be equal to 0. So from there, I can write down that 1 minus 4 lambda I cap plus 2 minus 3 lambda j cap plus minus 4 minus 5 lambda k cap. This vector, if I take the dot product with a, which is nothing but 4i cap plus 3j cap plus 5k cap, this should be 0. So if I take the dot product, I'll get 4 minus 16 lambda plus 6 minus 9 lambda plus, you'll get a minus 20 minus 25 lambda. This should be 0. So if I look at the constants, you have 4 plus 6, that's 10 minus 20, so that's minus 10. Minus, this is 25, minus 25, so minus 50. This should be equal to 0, which implies lambda is minus 1 by 5. So I get the value of lambda. I can plug this back into the value of b2 and I can directly find the value of b2 vector. So b2 vector is going to turn out to be 1 minus 4 by 5, sorry, 1 plus 4 by 5 I cap plus 2 plus 3 by 5 j cap plus minus 4, minus minus will become plus, so plus 1 k cap, So that is basically 5 plus 1, 9 by 5 I cap plus 13 by 5 j cap minus 3 k cap, right? Now you're looking for 5b2 dot product with this, right? So 5b2 is going to be 9 I cap plus 13 j cap minus 15 k cap, right? So this dot product with I plus j plus k should just be 9 plus 13 minus 15. So that turns out to be 7. So the right answer for this is option 3, which is 7. Okay. So we just had to do a couple of dot products and use the basic definition of parallel and perpendicular vectors. Okay. Coming to the next question, a scientific committee has to be formed from 6 Indians and 8 foreigners, which must include at least 2 Indians and double the number of foreigners as Indians. Then the number of ways the committee can be formed is how much? Alright, so let's create a very simple table. So the number of Indians, the number of foreigners, and the total number of ways in which you can do this. So it's given that it should include at least 2 Indians, right? So you can have 2 Indians. If you have 2 Indians, you should have double the number of Indians as the number of foreigners, right? So the number of foreigners is going to be 4. If you take it to be 3, it's going to be 6. If you take it to be 4, it's going to be 8, right? And these are the only 3 cases, right? Because if you take 5 Indians, you would need 10 foreigners, which is not an option, right? Because the total number of foreigners given to you is 8. So these are the 3 cases. So let's see how many ways can we do this. So the first way, it's simple. It's going to be 6 choose 2 times 8 choose 4. The second one is going to be 6 choose 3 times 8 choose 6. And the third one is going to be 6c4 times 8c8, right? So if we simplify this, 6 choose 2 should be, so if we compute these values, this should turn out to be 1050, this should turn out to be 560, and this should turn out to be 15. So your total is going to be 5, 11, 12, and 1625. Which is option A. So that's your final answer, okay? So very straightforward, a very simple counting problem. Coming to the next question, an ordinary dice is rolled for a certain number of times. If the probability of getting an odd number is twice the probability of getting an even number 3 times, then the probability of getting an odd number from an odd number of times is what? Okay. So first of all, it's tossed a certain number of times. So let's say we are tossing this dice n times. The probability of getting an odd number 2 times. So how many ways can you get an odd number twice? So out of those n tosses, any 2 of them are going to give you odd and the rest of them are going to be even numbers, right? But the probability of all of them is half, right? Because it's a fair die, it's an ordinary die. So it's going to be half to the power n. This is the first probability. So this is the probability of getting an odd number 2 times. And this is equal to the probability of getting an even number 3 times, which is n choose 3 times half to the power n. So you basically get that n choose 2 should be equal to n choose 3. This is very simple. You can solve this if you want, you can expand it, but you should be directly able to say that n has to be equal to 5 for this to hold, right? So the number of times you're tossing this die is basically 5 times, right? So find the probability of getting an odd number for an odd number of times, right? So an odd number of times, you can either get it 1 time, so that's going to be 5c1 times half to the power 5. Or you can get it 3 times half to the power 5, or you can get it 5 times. So that's 5c5 half to the power 5. So you can take this half to the power 5 common. You'll be left with 5. Plus 5 choose 3 is basically 5 choose 2, which is 5 into 4, so that should be 10. Plus is going to be 1, right? So that's 16 divided by 32. That's half. So the right answer for this is half, which is option 4, right? Coming to the next one, let P and Q be positive numbers such that P plus Q is equal to 2 and P power 4 plus Q power 4 is 272. Then P and Q are roots of which equation? So starting off with this, you can rewrite this as P square plus Q square whole square minus 2 P square Q square, right? And this can be further written as P plus Q whole square minus 2PQ, this thing squared, minus 2P square Q square. Now you have the value of P plus Q given to you, it's 2, right? So this is nothing but 4 minus 2PQ whole square minus 2P square Q square, right? So if you look at this carefully, you have the sum of the roots given to you, right? So all you have to do is you have to find out the product of the roots and you'll be done. So for that, let's consider PQ to be some variable T, right? And this is going to be 4 minus 2t whole squared minus 2t squared, right? Which is equal to 4t square plus 16 minus 16t minus 2 square. And this value is given to be 272, right? So if I rearrange this quadratic slightly, I'll get 2t square minus 16t plus 16 equal to 272, which gives you t square minus 8t plus 8 minus 136 equal to 0, which gives you t square minus 8t minus 128 equal to 0. Now this factorizes as t plus 8 times t minus 16. So since P and Q are positive numbers, their product obviously cannot be negative, right? So the product has to be 16. So from here, if you look at the options, the sum of the roots has to be 2, which is there in all the options. The product of the roots has to be 16, which is option D. Hence, your right answer is option 4, okay? Coming to the next question, if e to the power this infinite sum times log 2 base e satisfies this equation, then find the value of this expression. So if I look at this part, e to the power, whatever, let's call this some constant capital X, right? Log 2 base e, this should just be 2 to the power x, right? Okay, using properties of logarithm. Now this infinite sum is nothing but a GP with first term cos square and common ratio cos square, right? So that should just be 2 to the power cos square x divided by 1 minus cos square x, right? Okay, so it's given that this satisfies this equation. So this equation is nothing but t minus 8 times t minus 1 equal to 0, right? So from here you can say that t is equal to either 2 cube or it's equal to 2 to the power 0, right? Now see, for this to be 0, so this means that this particular value either has to be 3 or it has to be 0. Now it cannot be 0 because for it to be 0, we want x to be pi by 2, but x strictly, for this value to be equal to 0, we want x to be equal to pi by 2, which is not an option because x is strictly between 0 and pi by 2. So it has to be 3. So from there, we can say that cos square x divided by 1 minus cos square x has to be equal to 3, right? Okay. Now what you're looking for, so this basically tells you that cot square x is equal to 3, which gives you cot x equal to square root of 3 as x lies in the first quadrant, right? Now this particular value, if I divide the numerator and the denominator by sign, you'll get that it's 2 divided by 1 plus root 3 cot x. And the value of cot x is root 3, so this ratio should just be 2 by 1 plus 3, which is 2 by 4, so that's half. So that's your option 4, all right? Coming to the next question, you have to find the value of this limit. It's a very straightforward application of L'Hopital and Leibniz rule. If you look at x going to 0, both the numerator and the denominator are 0, right? So you can differentiate them. So this limit, L, is going to be limit x going to 0. The derivative of the numerator is going to be sine of root of x square, which is just sine x, times the derivative of x square, which is 2x, divided by the derivative of the denominator, which is 3x square. You can cancel out one x. Sin x by x goes to 1. So this limit is nothing but 2 by 3. A very straightforward question. Your right answer is option 1. Okay. Coming to question 18. Two vertical poles are 150 meters apart and the height of one of them is thrice the other. If the middle point of the line joining the 2 feet, or there's an observer at the middle point, finds the angle of elevations to the tops to be complementary, then the height of the shorter pole is what? Alright. So your figure should look something like this. You have one tower, let's assume it's a larger tower. This is the midpoint. You have an observer here. And the angle of elevations are complementary, right? Which means that if one of them is theta, the other one has to be 90 minus theta. Let's assume the height of the smaller one to be h. Then the height of the larger one is 3h. Now, the observer stands in the middle, right? So both of these distances have to be 75, right? Now these are perpendiculars. So if you look at the value of tan theta from this particular triangle, you can say that tan theta is going to be h by 75. But if you come to this triangle, this is theta, right? So tan theta is now going to be 75 by 3h. So this should be 75 by 3h. So from this, if you cross multiply, you'll get that h square has to be 75 squared divided by 3, which implies that h is equal to 75 by root 3, which is 25 root 3. Right? Which is option 2. Okay? Again, a very straightforward application of heights and distances. You just had to compare the value of tan theta for both the towers, alright? Coming to the next question, if this integral is equal to a sine inverse something plus c, where c is a constant of integration, then the ordered pair a comma b is equal to what? Alright. So if I look at this integral on the left hand side, I can rewrite this as cos x minus sine x divided by, if I add and subtract 1, I'll get 9 minus 1 plus sine 2x dx, which is nothing but integral of cos x minus sine x divided by square root of 3 square minus sine x plus cos x whole squared, right? Dx. So if I put sine x plus cos x as t, you'll see that you'll get cos x minus sine x dx, which is the numerator, to be dt, right? So this integral is nothing but integral t by root over 3 square minus t square dt, which is sine inverse t by 3 plus some constant. Replacing the value of t, you'll see that this turns out to be sine inverse sine x plus cos x divided by 3 plus some constant c, right? So the right answer for this is a has to be 1, right? And b has to be 3. So your right option is option 3. Alright, coming to the next question. The number of 5-digit numbers of the form x, y, z by x, in which x is less than y, is how many? Right, so if you look at this question, first of all, you want x to be less than y, right? So let's look at the number of choices of each. So x is the first digit, right? So x obviously can't be 0. So x can start from 1 to all the way till, let's say, 9, okay? Now, if you look at the possible values of y, if x is equal to 1, y has to be strictly greater than 1, right? So y can take all values from 2 all the way till 9, right? So it has 8 choices. Similarly, if x is equal to 2, y can take values from 3, 4, so on and so forth till 9, right? So it has 7 choices, right? Similarly, for 3, it's going to be 6, so on and so forth, all the way till for 9, y doesn't really have any choice, right? You can't have another digit which is greater than 9, right? So this becomes 0. So the number of choices in which you can fix x and y is basically 1 plus 2 all the way till 8, which is 36, right? Now for each of these choices, z is pretty independent and z has 10 choices, right? So the total number of numbers which you can form is 36 times 10, which is 360. Hence the right option is 2. Cool? Coming to the next question, if z and omega are complex numbers satisfying z conjugate plus I omega conjugate equal to 0 and amplitude of z omega is equal to pi, then find the amplitude of z. So from this equation, we can say that z conjugate is minus iota times omega conjugate, right? So if I take the conjugate on both sides, I can say that z is equal to I times omega, right? Which means that the amplitude of z minus the amplitude of omega should be equal to the amplitude of iota, which is pi by 2, right? Similarly, from the second one, amplitude of z times omega is equal to pi, right? Which means amplitude of z plus the amplitude of omega should be equal to pi. If I add these two equations, I'll get that twice of amplitude of z is equal to 3 pi by 2, which implies that amplitude of z is going to be 3 pi by 4, right? Hence your right option is option 4, which is 3 pi by 4, okay? Coming to the next one. If x is equal to 1 by 2 square plus 1 by 3 square plus 1 by 5 square, so on and so forth, y is equal to 1 by 1 square plus 3 by 2 square plus 1 by 3 square and so on and so forth, z equal to 1 by 1 square minus 1 by 2 square and so on and so forth, then which of the following option are correct? Okay. So if I look at the difference between y and x, if I look at y minus x, you can see that all the reciprocals of the odd squares will cancel out, right? And you'll be left with thrice the sum of the reciprocal of the even squares. So you'll get 3 times 1 by 2 square plus 1 by 4 square and so on and so forth, right? Similarly, if I look at the difference between x and z, if I look at x minus z, again you'll see that all the odd terms are going to cancel out. The even terms have a minus sign in front of them, but because of this minus, they'll turn into positive, right? So it'll become 1 by 2 square plus 1 by 4 square and so on and so forth, right? So comparing these two equations, I can say that y minus x is basically thrice of x minus z. In other words, you get that 4x is equal to y plus 3z. Now, if I divide this by 2, I'll get that twice of x is equal to y by 2 plus 3z by 2, right? But this doesn't really match with any of the options, right? One more thing I can do is I can divide this entire equation by 3. Because you can see that we have two terms which have x by 3 here, right? So if I divide this entire equation by 3, I can say that twice of x by 3 is equal to y by 6 plus z by 2, right? Which basically tells me that from here, what can I say is that beech wala pause cut dena bas. So from here you can see that these three terms essentially form an AP. So I can say that y by 6, x by 3 and z by 2 form an AP. So option 3 is correct, okay? Alright. Going to question 23. When a missile is fired from a ship, the probability that it is intercepted is 1 by 3 and the probability that the missile hits the target given that it's not intercepted is 3 by 4. If you are firing 3 missiles independently from the ship, then find the probability that all 3 hit the target. So first of all, they're independent, right? So this required probability is basically p cubed, where p is the probability that it hits, right? Now, to find the probability of a missile hitting the ship is, first of all, it should not get intercepted, right? So this probability, P, is nothing but probability that it's not intercepted, right? Times, even if it's not intercepted, it still has to hit it, right? So times the probability that it actually hits the target, right? So P basically turns out to be, so the probability it's intercepted is 1 by 3, so the probability it's not intercepted is 2 by 3. Times the probability it hits is directly given to you, it's 3 by 4. So you get that this probability is nothing but half, right? So the probability that all 3 of them hit is basically 1 by 2 cubed, which is 1 by 8, okay? Coming to the next question, if 1, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 and alpha 4 are the fifth roots of unity, then find the value of this sum. So for this, first of all, observe that इस polynomial को अगर देखें x to the power n minus 1, sorry, x to the power 5 minus 1 in this case, इसके roots क्या है? 1, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 and alpha 4, right? So I can write this as x minus 1 times x minus alpha 1, x minus alpha 2, x minus alpha 3 times x minus alpha 4, right? So we got this. What we'll do is, see, basically I want something like 1 by something minus alpha I, right? So the best way to do that is just, first we'll take log of this, okay? क्योंकि यहाँ पे एक summation चाहिए, यहाँ पे एक product है. So if I take log of this, I'll get log of x to the power 5 minus 1 is equal to, let's keep this separate, so it'll be log of x minus 1 plus summation log of x minus alpha I, right? I equal to 1 to 4, okay? Right? The next step what we'll do is we'll differentiate this equation, okay? So if I differentiate this, I'll get 1 by x to the power 5 minus 1 times 5x to the power 4, and this thing should be equal to 1 by x minus 1 plus, so the derivative of all of these is going to be 1 by x minus alpha I, right? I equal to 1 to 4. Now the value you're looking for is this, except x की जगह यहाँ पे 2 है, right? So how do you do it? You just replace x with 2, right? So यहाँ पे, if I put x equal to 2, what will I get? Left hand side में क्या आ जाएगा? 5 into 2 to the power 4 divided by 2 to the power 5 minus 1, so that's 31. This should be equal to, this becomes 1, right? 1 by, this becomes 1 plus the summation. 2 minus alpha I. Okay? So basically this value that you're looking for is going to be 16 5s are 80 by 31 minus 1, right? So that should give you 49 divided by 31, which is option B. Okay? That's it. Sure. Coming to the next question, if A and B are chosen randomly by throwing a pair of fair cubical die, then the probability that this limit is equal to 6 is what? So सबसे पहले we'll have to simplify this, right? So if I look at this, this is basically some 1 to the power infinity if you think about it. If you put x equal to 0, this becomes 1, this basically goes to infinity, right? So कैसे करते हैं? So let's say limit L is equal to this one, x going to 0, a to the power x plus b to the power x divided by 2 whole to the power 2 by x. So log of L is going to be limit x goes to 0, 2 by x log of a to the power x plus b to the power x divided by 2, right? Now if you look at the numerator mein, if I just look at the log part, this becomes log 1, right? So it goes to 0, denominator goes to 0, so it's 0 by 0, we can use L'Hopital, right? So this should be equal to limit. So you can take the 2 outside if you want. You get twice limit x goes to 0. Log of this thing is basically going to be 1 by this thing divided by 2 times the derivative of this, right? Now derivative of a to the power x is going to be, it's going to be log of a times a to the power x plus log of b times b to the power x divided by 2 as it is, okay? So ये 2 और ये 2 cancel out हो जाएंगे. Now you can basically put x equal to 0 in this expression, right? So this gives you twice of limit, so if I put the value of x as 0, this will become half times numerator में, this becomes 1, this becomes 1, so you get log AB. That is just log AB, okay? Now this is me calculating the limit in the traditional way, right? But यहाँ पे limit की value given है, it's 6, right? So if I equate this with 6, I'll get that. So this is log of L, right? So what is the value of the limit? L is equal to AB, right? And ये value equal to 6 given है. So we basically want the product of the two numbers we get after throwing the dice to be equal to 6, right? So possibilities क्या है? It can be 1 6, 6 1, or 2 3, and 3 2. So 4 favorable cases out of 36. So what is the required probability? 4 by 36, which is 1 by 9. That's your final answer, okay? Which is option A, 1. Okay? So that's 25. Next question is, let fx be a cubic polynomial on R which increases in the interval minus infinity to 0 and 1 comma infinity, and it decreases on this interval. You have some initial conditions, then find the value of this expression. So सबसे पहले, if you think about it, a cubic polynomial is a smooth continuous differentiable function, right? तो अगर it increases on minus infinity to 0, तो rough sketch कैसा दिखेगा? तो it increases till here. मान लेते हैं ये x equal to 0 है. Then between x equal to 0 and x equal to 1, it decreases, right? And फिर से 1 से infinity पे it increases. So your graph should look something like this, right? Rough sketch, but this is what the point is. तो यहाँ से हम क्या बोल सकते हैं कि this points x equal to 0 and x equal to 1 are roots of f prime, right? Okay? So f prime basically has roots 0 and 1 and it's a quadratic. तो इसके basis पे I can write down कि f prime x should be some constant k times x minus 1, है ना? क्योंकि 0 and 1 roots हैं. Now based on the initial condition, if I put x equal to 2, I'll get 6 is equal to 2 into, sorry, k into 2 times 1. तो k की value 3 आ गई. Which means fx, or rather f prime x, is going to be 3x square minus 3x. If I integrate this, I'll get fx is equal to x cube minus 3 by 2 x square plus some constant c. अब हमारे पास f of 2 की value given है. So using that, I can find this initial condition c. So f of 2 is 2, which should be equal to 8 minus 3 by 2 times 4, so that's 6 plus c. ये cancel out हो गया, so c is equal to 0. है ना? So our function basically looks like x cube minus 3 by 2 x square, है ना? अब if you look at it, you need the values of f of 1, f of 3 by 2 and f of 0. तो निकाल लेते हैं. So f of 0 is obviously 0, है ना? f of 1 क्या आ जाएगा? 1 minus 3 by 2, so that's minus half. And what is f of 3 by 2? f of 3 by 2 is, this will become 3 by 2 whole cube, this is also 3 by 2 whole cube, so this is also 0. So essentially the value is going to be tan inverse of minus half, which is minus tan inverse of half, which is equal to cot inverse 2. Okay? So that's your final answer, minus cot inverse 2. So option 4. Okay? Simple, you just had to figure out that based on this increasing and decreasing, the roots of f prime are going to be 0 and 1. That's it. Okay? Chalo. Next question is, if this expansion is equal to this and k is equal to this sum of the coefficients, फिर हम define कर रहे हैं k minus a30 is equal to something, then find n plus r. Okay. So what can we do for this question? सबसे पहले, if you look at this expression given to you, x minus 2 plus 1 by x whole to the power 30 is nothing but, ये अंदर जो है, that is nothing but x minus 1 by x whole square, right? So this expression is nothing but x minus 1 by x whole to the power 60. Okay? ये मिल गया. Now what is the value of k? K is basically sum of the coefficients of this, right? This expansion. तो वो कैसे निकलेगा? Just put x equal to 1. So you can say that k has to be 0, right? तो if k is equal to 0, then A30 is basically just NCR, right? So हमें बस A30 निकालना है, that's it. Now what is A30? A30 is the coefficient of the constant, right? तो इस term में what is the general term going to be? 60 choose k, x to the power k minus 1 to the power 60 minus k times 1 by x to the power 60 minus k, right? है ना? तो basically this power and this power should be the same, which means k should be equal to 30, है ना? So ये coefficient क्या आ जाएगा? ये 30 हो जाएगा, so it will become plus 1, so 60 choose 30, right? This is NCR, which means n plus r is going to be 90. Okay, so that's option 3. ठीक है? Simple, straightforward binomial expansion. Okay, cool. Consider data on x taking values 0, 2, 4, 8, so on and so forth with these frequencies. If the mean of this data is 728 divided by 2 to the power n, then n is equal to what? तो mean की formula क्या आ जाएगी यहाँ पे? The values it takes times the frequencies. So 0 times n choose 0 plus 2 times n choose 2. Sorry, n choose 1. All the way till 2 power n times n choose n divided by sum of the frequencies. So that's n choose 0 plus n choose 1 all the way till n choose n, right? So denominator तो easy है, it's a standard binomial sum of coefficients, so it's 2 power n, right? अब numerator के लिए if you use the expansion of 1 plus x whole to the power n with x equal to 2, तो पहले देखते हैं ये क्या आता है. This is basically n choose k times 2 to the power k, right? If I put x equal to 2 in this, I'll get 3 to the power n is equal to n choose 0 plus 2 times n choose 1 all the way till 2 power n choose n. So this is the sum we are looking for, right? तो ये n choose 0 which is equal to 1 उसको दूसरे साइड भेजते हैं. So this required sum is 3 to the power n minus 1. So this gives you 3 power n minus 1 divided by 2 power n. And इसकी वैल्यू क्या है यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन में? 728 divided by 2 power n, right? तो ये कैंसिल आउट हो गया. You get 3 to the power n is equal to 729, which means that n is equal to 6, right? Okay, so your final answer is 4, 6. Okay. ठीक है ना? Simple, straightforward question. All right. Let's come to the next question. So let one AM, A and two GMs, G1 and G2 be inserted between B and C, then find the value of this expression. Okay. So see, first of all, if one AM is inserted between these two numbers, it means that B, A and C, they form an AP, right? Which means A is nothing but B plus C divided by 2. Okay. Similarly, since two GMs are inserted between these, it means that B, G1, G2 and C, they'll form a GP, right? ठीक है ना? तो यहाँ से what can we say? So G is basically B times R, this is B times R square and this is B times R cube, which means common ratio क्या आ जाएगा? This should be equal to C, right? So common ratio is nothing but C by B whole to the power 1 by 3. Okay? तो G1 की वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी? G1 is going to be B times the same thing whole to the power 1 by 3, which is nothing but B to the power 2 by 3, C to the power 1 by 3, and G2 is going to be B times C by B whole to the power 2 by 3, right? So that's B to the power 1 by 3 and C to the power 2 by 3. ठीक है? तो ये तो values हमें मिल गए. So what is this expression going to be? यहाँ पे value substitute करें. So you're cubing these, right? So you'll get B square C plus BC square divided by ABC product, right? ABC में क्या आ जाएगा? एक B plus C divided by 2 आ जाएगा times BC आ जाएगा. Numerator से take BC common, you'll get B plus C. Denominator में क्या है? B plus C by 2 है times BC है, right? ये cancel out हुआ, ये cancel out हुआ, ये half numerator में जाके this becomes 2, right? So the value of this expression is going to be 2, which is option 1. ठीक है? Simple, just using the idea of insertion of means between numbers, okay? Coming to the next one, let ABC be positive integers forming an increasing GP and B minus A is a perfect cube. If this is equal to 6, then find the value of A plus B plus C. Okay. तो यहाँ से क्या आता है देखते हैं. So from here you can say that first of all, this is log ABC, right? This is 6, which means product ABC is equal to 6 to the power 6. ये एक equation आ गया directly, okay? Second क्या है? It's an increasing GP where B minus A forms a perfect cube. तो A, AR and AR square, these are the values, right? This is A, this is B, this is C. तो यहाँ से if I plug this product here, तो क्या आ जाएगा? A cube आ जाएगा times R cube आ जाएगा, that is 6 to the power 6. Which means what is the product of AR? That is going to be 6 square, which is 36. ठीक है? एक और equation हमारे पास आ गया, है ना? Now, Okay, now what is given to us is that b minus a is a perfect cube, which means a times r minus 1 should be some perfect cube. Let's call it k cube. अब देखो ये given है कि these are positive integers, right, forming a increasing GP, which means r has to be positive. Second, a और r दोनों को individually integers होना पड़ेगा, right? So यहाँ से we can look at the possibilities of a r, right? So one possibility is increasing, right? So r can't be 1. तो इसकी possibilities क्या आएंगे? So a could be 4, or let's go with the smallest. So 2, 18. Then 3, 12, 4, 9, 6, 6, and the opposite of this, right? ठीक है, इसके corresponding you'll also get 18, 2, 12, 3, 9, 4, and 6, 6. Okay. So obviously we see 6, 6 is not going to satisfy this, right? 6 times 5 or 30 आ जाएगा. It's not a cube. तो ये options तो नहीं होंगे, right? ये चले गए. Next, you basically have to substitute in C, right? So R equal to 1 नहीं हो सकता है, right? So these are the pairs A, R. तो R equal to 2 हो गया तो A becomes 18, so that's not possible. Similarly, ये 12 into 2, 24 हो जाएगा, not possible. 9 into 3, 27, this is actually possible. यहाँ से भी I think 4, 8 is again not possible, right? 32 आ जाएगा. यहाँ से this will become 3 times 11, not possible. 2 times 17, again not possible. So the only possibility is 4, 9, right? So A has to be 4 and R has to be, sorry, A has to be 9, right? A has to be 9 and R has to be 4. This is your only option such that ये condition satisfy हो जाएगा. तो यहाँ से you can find the values, right? So 9, दूसरा क्या आएगा 36 और तीसरा क्या आएगा 9 into 4 square, right? So 16, 9. So that's 16 into 9. So that is 144. Hence, इसका sum क्या आ जाएगा? So this is 40, so 184. Sorry. हाँ? फिर से काट देना. So now you're looking for the sum A plus B plus C. So that is going to be how much? This gives you 180 plus 9, 189, right? So that's option 4. ठीक है? Cool. Alright, coming to the next question. Given lines x by a plus y by b equal to 1 and ax plus by equal to 1. These are two variable lines where a and b are parameters connected by this relation. Then the locus of the point of intersections has which equation? Okay. So let's assume that their point of intersection is some h comma k, right? So what can we say? First of all, हमें मिलेगा कि h by a plus k by b. This should be equal to 1. And similarly, second equation में अगर plug करेंगे तो we'll get that ah plus bk is equal to 1, right? अब अगर पैरामीटर्स को देखें, this equation can be rewritten as, अगर मैं दोनों साइड्स को डिवाइड कर दूं by a b, what will I get? I'll get a by b plus b by a equal to 1, right? So this is basically the equation that connects the two parameters, right? अब इन दोनों को मल्टीप्लाई कर दो आपस में. So we'll get h by a plus k by b times ah plus bk equal to 1. तो लेफ्ट हैंड साइड को एक्सपैंड करने पे क्या आएगा? So if I multiply the first two terms, I'll get h square. Second दोनों terms को साथ में multiply कर देंगे तो I'll get k square, right? Now the cross terms will be, if I multiply this with this, I'll get hk times b by a, right? Plus इन दोनों को terms को multiply कर दिया तो क्या आ जाएगा? a by b times kh. And this entire thing should be equal to 1, right? तो अब देखो यहां से if I take hk common, I'll be left with this thing which is equal to 1, right? तो ultimately क्या आ जाएगा कि h square plus k square plus hk काट देना ये वाला. तो क्या आएगा? h square plus k square plus hk is equal to 1, right? So ultimately equation के फॉर्म में लिखेंगे तो you'll get x square plus y square plus xy is equal to 1, right? So this is the equation of the locus of the point of intersection, right? तो कौन सा option है? This is option 1, right? So that is your correct answer. Okay, cool. Okay, coming to the next question. There are 3 bags A, B and C. Bag A contains 7 black balls, 5 red balls. B contains 5 red and 7 black, so basically the same. And C contains 7 red and 7 black. A ball is drawn and found to be black, then find the probability it's from the first bag, so bag A. So क्या है? Simple application of Bayes theorem, right? So you have to find the probability that it's from A given that it's black, right? तो ये क्या आ जाएगा? So this is probability black given A divided by क्या आ जाएगा? सबके ऊपर total probability निकालनी है. So black A plus probability black B plus probability black C, right? तो वैल्यूज डाल के देखते हैं. सो बैग ए में 7 and 5 राइट. सो 7 है, सो 7/12. सो 7/12 यहाँ पे भी आ गया, सॉरी 7/12 प्लस बैग बी में भी सेम है राइट. 5 रेड and 7 ब्लैक राइट. सो इट्स स्टिल 7/12 एंड थर्ड में 7 and 7 राइट. सो इट्स बेसिकली हाफ. ओके, let's keep it as 7/14. okay, तो ये से सिंप्लीफाई करना है तो 7 will cancel out. what will you be left out with? 1/12 divided by, ये क्या हो जाएगा 2 into 6 into 7. तो ये पहला टर्म कैसे मल्टीप्लाई होगा 7 से. सो यू गेट 7 + 6 राइट. तो ये आ जाता है तो 12 और ये 12 कैंसिल आउट हो गया. सो 7/20 राइट. That is your required answer. Okay, so the answer is 7/20. Simple base theorem. और ये बहुत ही common question है JEE का, ठीक है. It has something to do with black and white balls or black and red balls and 3 bags. Okay, तो ये बहुत common question है. Different variants, just values change हो जाएगी, but the idea is the same, right? Okay. Coming to the next question, find the number of rational terms in the expansion of 2 to the power 1/5 plus 5 to the power 1/3 whole to the power 15. तो इसके लिए कैसे करना है? Just write down the general form of this. Okay, so this is going to be summation k equal to 0 to 15, 15 choose k times 2 to the power k by 5, right, times 5 to the power 15 minus k divided by 3. okay, तो for this to be rational मुझे पता है कि इन दोनों terms को individually rational होना पड़ेगा. Now the first thing you can say is 5 has to divide k, right? okay, 5 has to divide k. तो options क्या क्या है हमारे पास? k equal to 0, 5, 10 and 15. तो इसके corresponding let's find the value of 15 minus k. तो यहाँ पे आ जाएगा 15, first वाला 15 देगा, second will give you 10, third will give you 5 and the last will give you 0. Now this thing 15 minus k has to be divisible by 3, right? तभी जाकर तो ये second term एक rational term देगा, right? तो दोनों conditions कहाँ पे satisfy हो रहे हैं? तो this works and this works, right? So only for 0 and 15 will both the terms be rational. Hence इसमें कितने rational terms हैं? 2, right? That's your answer. Simple. Okay. Cool. Question 34 is, if x square minus ax plus b equal to 0 has roots 2 and 6 and we define alpha to be this, beta to be this, then find the equation having roots alpha and beta. तो यहाँ से क्या मिल रहा है? First of all, what is the value of a? By beta it should be 2 plus 6, right? So that's 8. Value of b क्या आ जाएगा? Product, so 12. Now इसके basis पे we can find the value of alpha as 1 by 16 plus 1, 17. Beta is going to be 2b minus a, right? So 2b is going to be 24 minus a is 16, right? 1 by 16 and 1 by 17. तो हमारा required equation क्या है? x square minus 1 by 17 plus 1 by 16 plus 1 by 16 times 17, right? Okay, ये क्या आ जाएगा? So you can multiply this entire equation by, so this is equal to 0 is your required equation, right? So multiply this entire thing by 16 times 7, which is 232, right? So this will become 232 x square minus 33x, so यहाँ पे एक x आएगा, plus 1 equal to 0. So that's your required answer, okay? Cool. तो ये गया question 34. Coming to question 35, let fx be x to the power 5 plus 2 times e to the power x by 4 for every x. Consider a function g of f of x equal to x for all x. Then find the value of g 8 times g prime 2, right? So again a very standard question. इसमें क्या करना होता है? You have g of f of x is equal to x, right? So differentiate this, you'll get g prime fx times f prime x equal to 1, right? Which means g prime fx is equal to 1 by f prime x. अब हमें वैल्यू निकालनी है of g prime 2, right? So we are looking for the value जहाँ पे this turns out to be 2. And you can clearly see कि x equal to 0 पे f of, so at x equal to 0, we can see that f of x is equal to 2 आ रहा है, right? क्योंकि first term vanish कर जाएगा, this will become 1, so 2 आ रहा है, right? So just put x equal to 0 in this, you'll get that g prime 2 is going to be 1 by f prime 0. अब f prime 0 निकालने के लिए just differentiate this, so f prime x क्या आ रहा है? It's going to be 5x to the power 4 plus 2 e to the power x by 4 times 1 by 4, right? तो ये half हो गया. Now put x equal to 0, तो ये क्या हो जाएगा? ये 1 हो जाएगा, this will give you a half, right? तो ये half आ गया, तो इसकी वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी? 2. तो 8 times g prime 2 क्या आ जाएगा? 16, right? Okay, so that's your answer. 2. ठीक है? तो ये बहुत कॉमन है, remember this, okay? ये पैटर्न भी again, it's a very common type of question, okay? Cool. Okay, so suppose you have two matrices A and B given to you, and you define a matrix Q to be A transpose B A, then the inverse of this matrix A Q to the power 2021 A transpose is equal to what? Okay, so let's start off by looking at this matrix A transpose. ये क्या आ जाएगा? So this is going to be 1 by root 5 minus 2 by root 5, 2 by root 5 and यहाँ पे 1 by root 5, right? This times इसका transpose क्या आएगा? You flip this, right? So 1 by root 5, 2 by root 5 minus 2 by root 5, 1 by root 5, right? Okay? And इन दोनों को multiply करेंगे तो let's see what happens. You'll get 1 by 5, 1 by 5 plus 4 by 5, so that becomes 1. इसके बाद वाले के लिए minus 2 by 5 plus 2 by 5, so 0. Similarly, फिर से ये minus 2 by 5 plus 2 by 5, so 0. And यहाँ से क्या आ रहा है? Minus plus 4 by 5 plus 1 by 5, so 1. So basically, yes, you can say that A transpose is equal to identity, right? So that's all we need. So I'll erase this calculation. So the first thing we got that A transpose is equal to identity, right? ये हो गया हमारा पहला equation. Now, if we look at Q कैसे defined है? Q is A transpose B A, right? So if I look at Q square, ये क्या आ जाएगा? A transpose B A followed by again the same thing, right? So A transpose B A. So A transpose is equal to identity, right? तो ये क्या आ जा रहा है? A transpose B square A. Similarly, I can use induction or just ऐसे ही. So the same way, we can say that Q to the power n is equal to A transpose B to the power n times A. ठीक है ना? Okay? Right. तो इसके basis पे, what is this matrix going to turn out to be? So A Q to the power 2021 A transpose है हमारे पास. This is the required matrix. Basically इसका inverse निकालना हमें, right? But if I plug the value of Q to the power 2021, क्या आ जाएगा? This will become A transpose B to the power 2021 A transpose. So A transpose is identity. This is also identity. So this matrix is nothing but B to the power 2021, right? Okay? ये मिल गया हमें, right? So this is the second equation that we got. अब देखते हैं कि B कैसे ऑपरेट करता है. So if I look at B square क्या आएगा? 1 iota 0 1 times 1 iota 0 1. ये क्या आ रहा है? So 1 1, ये 1 आ गया. Iota 2 iota 0 0 and this is going to be iota 1, right? And essentially अगर तुम थोड़ा इंटरेक्ट करो और if you look at B cube, you can say that B to the power n is going to be 1 n iota 0 1, right? तो यहां से हमें b to the power 2021 मिल जाएगा, right? Which implies that b to the power 2021 should look like 1 2021 iota 0 1, right? So this is a very simple 2 cross 2 matrix. So इसका inverse you can directly find it, and if you find it, it should be what? It should be option 2, right? तो ये आ गया इसका inverse, ठीक है? Okay. If the sum of an infinite GP AR square so on and so forth is 15 and the sum of the squares of each of its term is 150, then find the sum of this. Okay? तो सबसे पहले see, so this GP A plus AR square, इसका sum क्या आ जाएगा? A by 1 minus R. And if I look at the sum of the squares, तो वो नया GP क्या है? A square plus A square R square so on and so forth. तो इसका first term है A square and the common difference is R square, right? So this becomes A square by 1 minus R square. तो ये वैल्यू हमारे पास गिवन है. दिस इज इक्वल टू 15, राइट? एंड दिस इज 150. बट इसको मैं ऐसे भी लिख सकता हूँ, राइट? a by 1 minus r टाइम्स a by 1 plus r, राइट? ओके, दिस इज इक्वल टू 150. अब इसका वैल्यू क्या है? दिस इज इक्वल टू, सॉरी, दिस इज 15, राइट? तो ये 15 आ गया. तो यहां से इसकी वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी? a by 1 plus r शुड बी इक्वल टू 10, राइट? नाउ फ्रॉम हियर यू कैन सिंपली सॉल्व फॉर दिस, राइट? अगर दोनों को डिवाइड कर दोगे तो क्या आ जाएगा? 1 plus r divided by 1 minus r, that should be equal to this by this, right? So 3 by 2. तो यहाँ से क्या आ रहा है कि 2 plus 2r should be is equal to 3 minus 3r, right? So you get 5r is equal to 1, which implies r is equal to 1 by 5. अब r की वैल्यू आ गई, so from here you can solve for a as well. a की वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी? a by 6 by 5, so 6 into 5 is equal to 10, so a is equal to 12, right? तो 12 and 1 by 5 मिल गए. Now you need to find the sum of this, right? तो इसका sum क्या आ जाएगा? a divided by 1, sorry, the first sum is ar square, right? Divided by, common ratio is still r square, so 1 minus r square, okay? तो ये क्या आ रहा है 12 into 1/25 divided by 24/25. ये 25 cancel हो गया, 12 and 24 half, so the answer should be half, which is option 2. ठीक है, as simple as that, just the sum of a GP, that's it. Okay. Coming to question 38, a strictly increasing continuous function fx intersects with its inverse f inverse at alpha and beta. If this integral is equal to 13, then find the value of mod alpha beta. Okay, तो remember this कि अगर f और f inverse की बात होती है, they always intersect on the line y equal to x, right? तो मान लेते हैं ऐसा कुछ है, तो दो पॉइंट्स में इंटरसेक्ट करना है, राइट? तो लेट्स गो विद समथिंग लाइक दिस. तो ये क्या हो जाएगा, दिस हो जाएगा, राइट? एंड इट्स सिमेट्रिक अबाउट y इक्वल टू x. तो ये है हमारा लाइन y इक्वल टू x. ओके, दिस इज f, दिस इज f इनवर्स. ये हमारा पॉइंट है अल्फा, विच मीन्स यहाँ पे ये पॉइंट भी अल्फा आएगा. दिस पॉइंट इज बीटा, विच मीन्स यहाँ पे ये पॉइंट भी बीटा आ जाएगा, राइट? Now remember कि integral of f inverse from alpha to beta is basically integrating along f from alpha to beta along the y axis, right? तो ये इसको अगर मैं दो integrals के टर्म में देखूं, alpha to beta fx plus alpha to beta f inverse x, okay? तो ये कैसा होगा? तो this required area, if I shade it, then f integral from alpha to beta is this, right? ये आ गया, प्लस f इनवर्स का इंटीग्रल क्या होगा? We just talked about it, so ये आ जाएगा, right? वहां से ये बाकी का पोर्शन. So what is this plus this? This is basically the area of this bigger square, beta square, minus the small square that you are not including, right? So this integral is nothing but क्या आ जाएगा? Beta square minus alpha square, and that is equal to 13, right? Now, if we solve for this, we know that alpha and beta are natural numbers, right? So the only solution to this would be beta equal to 7 and alpha equal to 6, right? So what is the value of mod alpha beta? 42. Simple, option 3, okay? Cool. Coming to question 39. Let alpha and beta be the sum and the product of all non-zero solutions of the equation z conjugate squared plus mod z equal to 0, जहाँ पे z is a complex number, then find the value of 4 alpha square plus beta square. Okay, तो इसके लिए this basically tells you, so let's assume z to be some a plus ib. तो ये पहला टर्म क्या आ जाएगा? This is a minus ib whole square plus mod of z, which is basically root over a square plus b square, and this thing has to be 0. तो इसको अगर expand करेंगे, you'll get a square minus b square minus 2ab iota plus root over a square plus b square equal to 0, right? Now this is equal to 0, which means the imaginary part has to be 0, right? So you'll get that AB has to be equal to 0, right? So now, since AB is equal to 0, see, one option is that both A and B are both 0, right? But we can't include that because we are looking for the non-zero solutions, right? So one case would be if A is equal to 0. अब अगर A equal to 0 हो गया, तो what happens in this equation is that B square is equal to root over B square, which is mod B, right? है ना? So from here, what can you say? So the solutions for this are what? 1 minus 1 iota and minus iota, right? ये चार solutions मिले हमें यहाँ से. What happens if b is equal to 0? b is equal to 0, you'll get a square plus mod a equal to 0, which means इसका only solution, see, this is a and b are both real numbers, right? So this is real, this is real. So only possibility is that a also is equal to 0, right? तो हमें यहाँ से solutions तो मिल रहे हैं is basically कि a has to be 0, okay? But a equal to 0 हो गया, b equal to 0 मतलब the entire number becomes 0, right? So that's not allowed. So your only possibilities are what? इनके basis पे, right? So look for the corresponding numbers. So it's basically some iota b, right? जहाँ पे b is taking all these values. तो चार values ले रहा है. So alpha is the sum, right? तो sum लोगे तो क्या आ जाएगा? 0 हो जाएगा, right? 1 minus 1 iota minus iota, they'll all cancel out, so you'll get 0. So alpha is equal to 0. What about beta? Beta is a product of all this times iota to the power 4 हो जाएगा, right? So वो 1 आ रहा है, यहाँ से product लोगे तो minus I square, which is plus 1 minus I times minus 1, right? Okay? So product में क्या आ जा रहा है? This becomes this is basically iota square, so minus 1 आ रहा है, right? So this is beta, right? So beta square की value आ जाएगी 1, alpha square is equal to 0, so this final answer should be just 4, right? ये 4 आ गया, okay? Coming to the next question, a square is inscribed in the circle x square plus y square minus 10x minus 6y plus 30 equal to 0. One of the sides is parallel to y equal to x plus 3. If these are the vertices of the square, then find the value of this expression. So for this, what you can do is, So look at y equal to x plus 3, right? So it will be something like this, but let's ignore that for the time being. So you have a circle and इसके अंदर you have the 4 vertices of the square, right? The circle का center कितना है? 5,3, right? See this line, if you look at this line, this has slope 1, right? Which means one of these sides. So basically we can say that this angle, अगर यहाँ पे imaginary x-axis को हम, like if you translate it, this angle is 45, right? So we can say that this diagonal that you have in the square should be parallel to the x-axis, right? Side parallel बोलने का यही point है कि the diagonal has to pass through the center, okay? And it will be parallel to the x-axis, okay? चलो ये मिल गया हमें. Now from here what can we say? So what is the radius of the circle? 25 plus 9 minus 30, right? तो कितना आ जाएगा? 4 root of this, so that's 2, right? So this has radius 2. So what is this point going to be? एक point यहाँ पे आ जाएगा 3,3, दूसरा point आ जाएगा 7,3, right? Okay? Now if you think about this line, this has to be parallel to the y-axis, है ना? This has to be parallel to the y-axis. So this will be 2, right? So यहाँ पे 5 आ जाएगा. X is fixed, right? So it's 5. यहाँ पे क्या आ जाएगा? 5,1. So you got all the 4 vertices. Now you can directly find summation xi square, summation of yi square. Xi square क्या आ जाएगा? 25 times 2, right? So 50 आ गया. Plus this will be 9 plus 49. Plus 9 plus 49. This summation of xi squared. Plus summation of yi squared क्या आ जाएगा? 9, 5, 3, 1, right? So 25 एक और आया. 9, एक 9 आएगा. 3, एक और 9 आ गया. Plus 1, right? Okay? So this is summation of yi squared. And if you solve this, this should turn out to be 152. Okay? So your right answer is option 2. Sorry, option 3. Okay? Alright, coming to the next question. Let ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0 and this other quadratic be two quadratic equations having roots alpha, beta and gamma delta respectively. If all the coefficients are real and this condition is given to you, then which of the following statements must be true? Alright, so for this, observe that if I simplify this expression slightly, so we can rewrite this as alpha power 2024 plus beta power 2024. Now this is nothing but, how can we write this? This is nothing but alpha power 2024 plus beta power 2024 divided by alpha beta whole to the power 2024, right? Similarly, we can do this for the other one, right? So यहाँ पे क्या आ जाएगा? ये भी gamma 2024 plus delta 2024 divided by the same thing whole divided by gamma delta whole to the power 2024, right? अब ये और ये cancel out हो जाएंगे, ये और ये cancel out हो जाएंगे. From here you can say that this expression basically tells you कि alpha beta whole to the power 2024 plus gamma delta whole to the power 2024 is equal to 0, right? अब alpha beta का, what is the value of alpha beta? It's c. What is the value of gamma delta? It's c prime, right? So c power 2024 plus c prime, sorry, c power 2024 plus c prime whole to the power 2024 is equal to 0, right? Now c and c prime are both real numbers, right? They are both real numbers and we are taking an even power, right? So even power of real numbers has to be non-negative, we know that, right? So अगर इनका sum 0 है, this is only possible if they are individually 0. तो अगर ये individually 0 आ गए तो equation क्या आ जाएगी कि c plus c prime is equal to 0, which is option 3. So that is your correct answer, okay? So just simple application of Vieta's theorem. Cool. Coming to the next question, let f and g be two functions defined as follows. Then the question is for which of the following ranges of alpha is this following inequality true? Okay, so सबसे पहले, if I look at f prime x क्या आ जाएगा? This will turn out to be 2x divided by x square plus 1 minus minus plus e to the power minus x. Now e to the power minus x is greater than equal to 1 for every value of x, right? Which means because this quantity is less than equal to 1 by AMGM or normal just squares are non-negative, वहाँ से भी बोल सकते हैं. We can say that this implies कि f prime x is always going to be positive. That is f is increasing, okay? Now if I look at gx क्या है? अगर divide कर देता हूँ तो e power minus x minus 2 e power x, right? Which implies g prime x should be minus of e power minus x plus 2 e power x, right? Which is strictly negative क्योंकि e power minus x, e power x दोनों positive होते हैं, right? Which means this function g has to be a decreasing function, okay? तो ये तो हमें मिल गया. Now, if f of, let's call this something, f of a is greater than f of b, because f is an increasing function, we want a to be greater than b, right? तो यहाँ से we can say that this inequality is true if g of alpha minus 1 whole square divided by 3 is greater than g of alpha minus 5 by 3. Now because g is decreasing up, sign reverse हो जाएगा, right? For this inequality to be true, we want alpha minus 1 whole square divided by 3 to be less than alpha minus 5 by 3. 3 से multiply कर दो. This is true if alpha square minus 2 alpha plus 1 is less than 3 alpha minus 5. तो इसको साइड पे लेके जाओ. This is true if alpha square minus 5 alpha plus 6 is less than 0, which means you want alpha minus 5. You want 2 and 3, right? Alpha minus 2 times alpha minus 3 to be less than 0. And ये कब होता है? When alpha lies in 2, 3 by wavy curve, right? So the required range of alpha is 2, 3, which is option 1. Okay, that's it. Okay, so just increasing, decreasing plus a mixture of wavy curve. Okay, so in the same question. All right, cool. So let x be the set of natural numbers from 1 to 17, y be the set ax plus b जहाँ पे small x lies in capital X and a and b are real numbers. If the mean and the variance of the elements of y are 17 and 216 respectively, then find the value of a plus b. Okay, तो अगर हम mean की बात करें, so the mean of the elements of y should be 1 by 17 summation ax plus b, right? जहाँ पे x lies in capital X. तो ये क्या आ जाएगा? This is 1 by 17. 8 times summation of x क्या हो जाएगा? Sum of the first 17 natural numbers, so 17 times 18 divided by 2, plus you are adding a constant 17 times, so 17b, right? तो ये cancel out हो गया. This implies कि 9a plus b should be equal to 17, okay? ये हमारा पहला equation आ गया. Now if we talk about the variance, you'll get that sigma y squared should be equal to 1 by 17 summation x in capital X ax plus b minus 17 whole squared. Now if you look at b minus 17, इसकी वैल्यू हम यहाँ से निकाल सकते हैं, right? So you get b minus 17 as minus 9a, right? तो इसको यहाँ पे प्लग करोगे तो क्या आ जाएगा? 1 by 17 summation x in x ax minus 9a whole squared, है ना? Which is nothing but if I take this a common, you'll get a square by 17 summation of x minus 9 whole squared, x in capital X, okay? ये आ जाएगा हमारे पास. Cool. Now we can simplify this. So if we simplify this, you'll get a square by 17 times ये क्या आएगा? First क्या आएगा? Summation of x square, right? Which is 17 into 18 into 35 divided by 6 minus 2x into 9, right? So 18 हम बाहर निकाल सकते हैं. Summation of x आ जाएगा, which is 17 into 18 divided by 2. Last में summation of 9 square 17 times, right? So 17 times 81. And this value should be equal to 216. Okay. Now यहाँ से you can cancel out all the 17s जो भी है numerator में, and यहाँ से let's say you cancel this out. तो 9 into 18, 18 into 35 ये भी 3 हो जाएगा. हाँ, a will turn out to be 3 from here. Okay, once you solve this. So once you get the value of a, you can solve for b as well, right? So 27 plus b should be equal to 17, which means b is minus 10. So what is the value of a plus b? It's minus 7, which is option 1. Okay? So that's how you do this. Coming to question 44. Let R be all ordered pairs x, y, where x, y is the point equidistant from these two lines. Then R is किस type का relation है? Okay. So let's start off by plotting these two lines. Okay. So पहला line क्या आ जाएगा? If you look at this line, this is basically y equal to root 3x, right? So it's a straight line passing through the origin with slope 60. Similarly, if I look at the second one, that is basically y equal to 1 by root 3x. मतलब basically slope, the angle it makes will be 30 degrees, right? Now, हमें पता है कि the locus of the points which are equidistant from two lines is going to be the angle bisector of the two lines, right? So basically, all the points which satisfy this are going to lie along this line, okay? And ये line क्या हो जाएगा? This is nothing but y equal to x, right? क्योंकि it has to be the angle bisector of these two. ये 30 degree है तो यहाँ पे 15, यहाँ पे 30, so 45, so y equal to x आ गया. Which means the only points which lie in this relation, the only ordered pairs would be of the form a, a. And if you are talking about a relation which only has a, a, it's obvious it's going to be an equivalence relation, right? So the answer for this is going to be 4. Simple. Just इतना पता होना चाहिए था कि the locus of the points which are equidistant from two lines is going to be the angle bisector of them, okay? तो ये हो गया question 44, एक line का answer, okay? Coming to question 45. Let A be the set 1 to 2024, then the number of subsets of A such that sum of the elements of A is even is which of the following? Okay. So सबसे पहले all you need to ensure कि if you take any subset, okay, let's say we take a subset X of A, then the number of odd elements or odd numbers in X इसको even होना पड़ेगा, right? क्योंकि even numbers don't really affect, right? Even numbers don't affect the parity, right? तो the number of odd numbers जो भी है inside the subset, they have to be even number of odd numbers, right? तो यहां पे इस पूरे सेट में we have 1012 odd numbers, 1012 even numbers, right? तो basically उनमें से you can choose any even number of odd numbers, right? तो वो क्या आ जाएगा? That is going to be 1012 choose 0 plus 1012 choose 1, sorry, choose 2 all the way till 1012 choose 1012. This is the number of ways in which you can choose an even number of odd elements inside the subset, right? अब इसके अलावा, if you think about it, even numbers के पास every even number has two choices, right? It can either belong to the subset or it might not. उनके होने या ना होने से the sum की parity जो है it doesn't really change, right? Which means all the remaining 1012 elements, they have two choices, right? They can either belong to the subset or they might not belong to the subset. But यहाँ पे एक case तुम्हें हटाना पड़ेगा, which is the case जहाँ पे it's the empty set. क्योंकि empty set में we can't really define some of the elements, right? So you have to get rid of that one empty set. तो ये किसके लिए है? This is because of phi. So this is the total number of subsets जहाँ पे sum of the elements is even. Now you know this is a very standard binomial thing, right? ये क्या आ जाएगा? This is 2 to the power 1011, right? This times you have 2 power 1012 minus 1, which basically turns out to be 2023 minus 1. So which is option 2. So this is the number of subsets which have even sum, okay? Cool. Coming to question 46, let A, B, C be three events, then given below are two statements. So ये A by C is basically A given C, alright? So statement 1 is probability A given C plus probability B given C can be greater than 1. Statement 2 is probability A union B given C can be greater than 1. अब देखो statement 2 तो directly you can see and say it's going to be wrong, right? क्योंकि probability ये अपने आप में तो एक event है, right? It's some event X. We don't care कि अंदर क्या है, but it's some event, right? So probability of any event cannot be greater than 1. So statement 2 तो obviously wrong है, right? So statement 2 is obviously wrong. Now talking about statement 1, it can be true, but ये true है, ये proof करना is very easy. क्यों? क्योंकि you can just take A and B to be some events which are independent of C, right? हम construction कर रहे हैं. You can choose A and B in such a way it's independent from C, and you can just give them some probability, right? You can assign them some probabilities which are both greater than 1, right? क्योंकि A और B आपस में they might not be mutually independent, right? So you can just take both of a बहुत simple case है कि A, B, these are equal and these are independent from C, and मान लो मैंने दोनों को probability assign कर दी equal to 1. I can always do this, right? ऐसा एक scenario तो मैं construct कर ही सकता हूँ, which means statement 1 is true क्योंकि यहाँ पे given it's can be greater than 1, right? It's not कि it'll always be greater than 1. So statement 1 is true whereas statement 2 is false, which means only 1. Okay? ठीक है? तो ये हो गया 46. Just basic definitions and तुम्हारे सोचने का तरीका check कर रहा है ये question, all right? Coming to question 47, the coefficient of x to the power 5 in the expansion of this is what? Okay, so इसके लिए what we can do first of all is see, we can take 1 plus x whole to the power 21 common. ये हो जाएगा 1 plus x plus 1 plus x whole square. Right? So we are looking for the coefficient of x to the power 5 in this particular expression. ठीक है? अब इसके लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं? What can we do for this? So coefficient of x to the power 5 in this is basically sum of coefficient of x to the power 5 in the first one plus second one, so on and so forth, right? So we can directly take the GP of this, right? We can take the sum of this expression, right? ये पूरे expression का sum निकाल लेंगे तो क्या आ जाएगा? This will be 1 plus x whole to the power 21 times number of terms कितने हैं? 10, right? Minus 1 divided by 1 plus x minus 1, which is just x. And this turns out to be 31 minus 1 plus x whole to the power 21 divided by x. So if you are looking for the, see obviously यहाँ पे देखो numerator में जो भी terms आएंगे they'll all contain a power of x, right? Because the only constant यहाँ पे भी 1 है, यहाँ पे भी 1 है, so you can divide by x, okay? अब अगर इस एक्सप्रेशन में you're looking for the x like the coefficient of x to the power 5, that is the same as checking the coefficient of x to the power 6 in the numerator, right? 6 जो भी आएगा once you divide it वो x to the power 5 बन जाएगा, right? So what is the coefficient of x to the power 6 in the numerator? It will be 31 choose 6 minus 21 choose 6. That's it. So this is your required answer, which is option 3. As simple as that, okay? Come to question 48. The value of this integral is equal to what? All right. So सबसे पहले यहाँ पे देखो, we'll use the property कि integral a to b fx dx is equal to the integral a to b f of b plus a minus x dx, right? We know this property for definite integral, so let's use this. तो यहाँ पे क्या हो जाएगा? So if I call this integral I, then I is also equal to 0 to pi. Pi minus x ले रहे हैं, right? E पर, तो ये क्या हो जाएगा? E to the power minus cos x sin x divided by, this doesn't really matter, right? क्योंकि squared है, तो this will just be 1 plus cos square x. तो ये हो जाएगा e power cos x, मतलब minus minus, I mean they'll interchange, but ultimately same चीज आ जाएगी, right? Minus cos x, okay, dx. ये आ गया हमारे पास. So if I add these two expressions, I'll get twice of I should be integral 0 to pi. अब देखो, this is common, right? Sin x by denominator is common. Times e power cos x plus e power minus cos x, right? ये common है. इसके अलावा क्या है? यहाँ पे e to the power minus cos x, यहाँ पे e to the power cos x. तो e to the power cos x plus e to the power minus cos x dx, right? I can cancel this out. तो ये ultimately क्या बन गया? sin x by 1 plus cos square x dx, right? अब क्या करना है? Just put t equal to, कुछ भी डाल सकते हो technically. Just put cos x if you want. तो dt is equal to sin x dx. तो ये क्या बन जा रहा है? So 0 पे it's 1, pi पे it's minus 1, right? So this will turn into dt by 1 plus t square, और sorry यहाँ पे cos x minus आ जाएगा, right? तो ये minus, this is basically integral minus 1 to 1, 1 by 1 plus t square dt. अब ये क्या आ जाएगा? tan के terms में आ जाएगा. This is basically tan inverse x, sorry, tan inverse t maybe from minus 1 to 1. So tan inverse 1 क्या आ जाएगा? pi by 4 minus minus pi by 4, so plus pi by 4 क्या आ गया? pi by 2. बट ये pi by 2 किसकी वैल्यू है? 2i की वैल्यू है, राइट? सो व्हाट इज द वैल्यू ऑफ i? i की वैल्यू है pi by 4. सो दैट्स ऑप्शन 3. ठीक है ना? द सिंपल यूज ऑफ दिस प्रॉपर्टी, उसके बाद एक सिंपल सा सब्स्टिट्यूशन, दैट्स इट. ओके, let fx be a polynomial function such that fx plus f prime x plus f double prime x is equal to x to the power 5 plus 64. Then the value of this limit is what? See, first of all, f of 1 has to be 0, right? If f of 1 is non-zero, then this limit doesn't exist in the first place, right? So if f of 1 is 0, तो यहाँ से एक चीज हमें मिल रही है कि f of 1 has to be 0 for this limit to exist. And once it's 0, we can use L'Hopital and directly say कि this is the value of f prime 1, है ना? Okay, तो हमें basically f prime 1 की value निकालनी है. Now let's look at the equation given to us. We have fx plus f prime x plus f double prime x is equal to x to the power 5 plus 64, right? So if I differentiate this further, ये polynomial है, so I can differentiate it, right? I'll get f prime plus f double prime x plus f triple prime x is equal to 5x to the power 4. एक और बार differentiate करेंगे तो क्या आ जाएगा? f double prime plus f triple prime plus the fourth derivative is equal to 20x cube. एक और बार f3x plus f4x plus f5x is equal to 60x square. ये आ गया, right? है ना? अब if I take the difference of these two, ये 3 और 4 cancel out हो जाएंगे, so you'll get f5 of x, the fifth derivative of x, minus f double prime x. This should be equal to 60x square minus 20x cube, right? है ना? ये मिल गया हमारे पास. Okay. अब now, okay. इसके बाद the next thing you can see is, तो इसके बाद हम will notice what is given in the question. First of all, this is a degree 5 polynomial, which means इसकी डिग्री इससे कम है, इसकी डिग्री इससे कम है, right? अब लीडिंग कोफिशिएंट, द ओनली टर्म विच कैन कंटेन x टू द पावर 5 इज f ऑफ x, राइट, क्योंकि इनके बाद वाले टर्म्स में वो एग्जिस्ट नहीं करेगा। तो यहाँ पे जो भी है x टू द पावर 5 वाला टर्म, उसकी कोफिशिएंट क्या आएगी? इट हैज टू बी 1, राइट। सो इट्स अ मोनिक पॉलिनोमियल। तो अगर एक मोनिक पॉलिनोमियल है सम a x टू द पावर 5 और तुम इसे 5 बार डिफरेंशिएट करोगे तो क्या आ जाएगा? 5 फिर 4 इंटू 3 इंटू 2 इंटू 1, राइट। सॉरी, यहाँ पे a 1 है। तो बेसिकली हमारा जो भी है, इट लुक्स समथिंग लाइक दिस fx, which means if I differentiate this 5 times, ultimately क्या बचेगा? You'll just be left out with 120, right? तो ये जो फिफ्थ डेरिवेटिव है, it has to be 120 and इसके बाद से सारे हायर ऑर्डर डेरिवेटिव जीरो हो जाएंगे। तो ये वैल्यू हमारे पास गिवन है, राइट? So this is 120. So this minus f double prime x, तो यहाँ पे x equal to 1 डाल देते हैं। So this should be equal to 60 minus 20, which is 40, which means f double prime 1 is equal to nothing but 80. ये मिल गया। Now once you get this, हम इसे एकदम फर्स्ट जो इक्वेशन है उसमें सब्स्टिट्यूट कर सकते हैं, राइट? So सब्स्टिट्यूट दैट, तो f1 0 है, राइट? So basically f prime 1 plus f double prime 1 which is 80, that should be equal to 65 आ जाएगा, which means f prime 1 की वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी यहाँ से? -15, राइट? Which is option 1. So that is your final answer, okay? तो यहाँ पे you had to know this thing कि एक polynomial अगर है it's monic and उसे 5 बार differentiate करे हो तो क्या आएगा, okay? Because ये सारी information question में indirectly given है, even though directly given नहीं है. So it's a nice question, okay? Let a circle C touch these two lines जो given है, and the second thing that's given to you is if a line passing through the center of the circle C intersects L1 at this point, L2 at this point, then find the equation of the circle. So सबसे पहले notice that these two lines are parallel lines, right? So it looks something like this. मान लेते हैं यहाँ पे L1 है, यहाँ पे L2 है हमारे पास, and इनके बीच में you have some circle, ठीक है? And you have a line passing through the center, तो यहाँ पे C है, intersecting the first line at -1, 2 and the second line at कहाँ पे इंटरसेक्ट कर रहा है? 3, -6. Okay. तो first thing is -1, 2 lies on the first line, right? Which means that -4, -6 plus k1 should be equal to 0, which gives you the value of k1 as 10. Similarly, 3, -6 lies on the second line, right? Which means 12 minus plus 18 plus k2 is equal to 0, which means k2 is -30. So from here, you can find the distance between the two lines. क्या आ जाएगा? This minus this mod of that divided by square root of a square plus b square, right? तो वो यहाँ पे 5 आ जाएगा. So this distance is 40 by 5, which is 8. So 8 is the diameter of the circle, which means what is the radius of the circle? Radius 4 आ गया, right? तो one thing we got is the radius. अब हमें बस center निकालना है somehow, okay? So how can you find the center of the circle? The center of the circle should be what? तो रेडियस हमें मिल गया, राइट? नाउ द नेक्स्ट थिंग वी नीड टू फाइंड इज द सेंटर ऑफ द सर्कल, राइट? सो इफ आई कॉल दिस पॉइंट A and B, because these lines are parallel lines, बहुत easily using like basic congruency, you can prove that C has to be the midpoint of A and B, right? So what is the coordinates of C? C के coordinate आ जाएंगे 3, so 3 minus 1, so that's 2, so 1 आ जाएगा यहाँ पे, and -6 plus 2, so -4, -2, right? So this is the center of the circle, right? तो अल्टीमेटली इक्वेशन कैसा हो जाएगा? x minus 1 whole square plus y minus -2, so y plus 2 whole square should be equal to radius 4 है, right? So 16. तो ये कौन सा ऑप्शन है? This is option C, right? So this is the equation. This is the final equation of your circle, okay? So these were the 50 most important questions for JEE according to me. So मैं नहीं बोल रहा कि यही questions आएंगे एग्जाम में इस साल भी. I'm just saying कि इन्हीं के कुछ ना कुछ variants आएंगे, right? And having gone through this video, I'm hoping कि आपने जो भी पढ़ा था, like you revise it, आप थोड़ा ज़्यादा confident feel कर रहे हो seeing questions of similar patterns जो आपने solve किए. And JEE में mostly इसी के कुछ ना कुछ variants आने वाले इस साल भी, okay? So if you like this video, do let us know in the comments.